What is good, NIO family? It's Rey-Jay back with another video, and in this one, I'm going to be talking about the one and only NIO stock, what you should be looking out for the future. I'm also going to do some in-depth technical analysis and give you guys my price prediction for tomorrow based off what the charts are showing and based off what the data is suggesting. I'm also going to end this video by talking about what NIO put on their Twitter page, which is very good news for the long-term future of this company. Now, before I break anything down, though, before I get into any details, I still have to mention a couple of things before starting. Firstly, I'm not a financial planner, so don't take any of this as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please smash the like button if you want to see more videos like this. It not only benefits me, it benefits the entire NIO community as a whole. And the last things, if you guys can, please check out the Webull link down below and in the description. If you sign up for Webull, the link down below, and deposit any amount of money into the account, you're guaranteed up to 12 free stocks, each worth up to $3,500. And you could always sell these 12 free stocks for cash and use that cash to buy some NIO shares for free. This is a limited time offer. It ends in just 12 days, so please check it out before they run out. With that out of the way, let's get on with the video. So NIO is up 0.59% for the day. It closed almost exactly where I predicted it would close, around that $20.4 level. But I also predicted one last thing. That was, I thought we would see a drop going into the open. That is what we ended up seeing. I predicted a bounce off 19.5. We bounced off 19.43. Then I thought NIO would actually push and actually test resistance at 20.8, drop from there and close kind of like around 20.4. We ended up doing almost everything I predicted we would have. Very, very close to my timing too. But we didn't actually go all the way to 20.8. We actually stopped at 20.4. So I was pretty close. Sometimes it doesn't go as high as you'd think it would go, but overall, a pretty decent day for NIO. Now, the overall market is showing some interesting improvements right now, but I'm not necessarily comfortable. And I do have a very important warning for all NIO investors and everyone out there. So let's actually talk about this for the market first before I break this down about NIO. If you look at the fear and greed index for the markets, let me close this ad. Sorry about that. Fear and greed index. The market is still a little bit on the fear side, but we're actually super close to neutral. And this is when the market is actually becoming a little bit more comfortable, a little bit more bullish. And this is what the bears, the shorts, the market makers, the big institutions are waiting for. They want you to become greedy. They want the market to become neutral. And that's when I think they're going to step in. So I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow. I'm not saying it's going to happen like immediately. It may take a few weeks. But remember, guys, just because the market's rallying, maybe NIO was going to push up with it, it doesn't mean it's going to last forever. If I look at SPY, okay, look at SPY, and it did some very good things today. If you look at the daily chart on SPY, this thing actually closed above the 200 EMA. That's a very good sign. This shows the SPY has more room to potentially push, maybe as high as 420. It could even get stopped around like 417, but it does have more room now. I don't think we're at the peak for SPY. It actually made a nice move. It actually broke above this kind of like resistance zone it was at. So it has room to keep pushing forward. But this is something very important I need to show you guys. On the 2-hour candles, check this out. Even though the SPY might push up another couple of dollars, even though it still looks like it has room, unfortunately, the SPY has a gap down at 409. It has another gap at 406, and that's like the bottom of it. It has another gap at 392. There's another one at in the 380s, another one in the 370s, and another one in the 360s. So we have, what is that, like 6, 7 gaps down? That's not a good sign. All right, that's as simple as I can make it. So maybe the SPY has more room. Maybe the market's going to push up a little bit more, which is awesome. But eventually, particularly as we approach the next FOMC meeting, maybe as we start September, I wouldn't be surprised if we see a big drop coming. All right, I'm warning you right now. Now, what does this mean for NIO? Unfortunately, this would most likely drag NIO down as we approach September. Until then, right, we're not in September yet. It does look like it has some room to continue doing what it's doing. So one of the things I want to talk about is a big news article that came out. Then I'm going to talk about NIO's share price. People are talking about how NIO has a new problem. NIO's deliveries ended up dropping in the month of July. They had supply chain issues, this and that. I mean, in my opinion, okay, look, maybe they have a point. Maybe NIO's deliveries did drop a little bit compared to June, but overall, they still did very, very well. Because you have to remember, we experienced the second highest amount of deliveries in NIO's history. for a month in July. It was still a good report, in my opinion. Massive growth year over year just for that month. And they actually beat a lot of their competitors. NIO was up like 27%. Other companies out there, I'm not going to name them specifically, they were up like 20%. Another one was up like 23%. So NIO, it was still a good deliveries report in my opinion, but it wasn't the greatest since it technically was a decline compared to June, which is okay. Supply chain problems are not necessarily in their control, but as long as they keep growing year over year, as long as they keep improving, I'm still going to be proud of them, and I'm still very proud of the work that they're doing. So for that reason, many would have suspected NIO didn't maybe move as much as some people would have thought, and that's why the news is becoming negative. So when it comes to NIO, I mean, what we're essentially seeing right now is NIO is kind of trading sideways. You look at the 5 minute candle, let me show you what I'm talking about. Look at NIO's price action. And I actually highlighted this a couple of weeks ago. I talked about how NIO has a tendency of trading in these ranges. So look at what happened last week. All right, look at what happened near the end of July. NIO drops all the way down 18.8, and this lasted like 4 or 5 days. It bounced between 18.8 and pushed up to about 19.5, back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It touched 18.5 at one point, came back. It did this for an entire week. What a boring week it was for NIO, right? Now what's happening to NIO? The thing decided to push up to this range that I was talking about, 20.8 to about, and the low end is at 19.5. We're basically trading back and forth, back and forth, back and forth again. And I do think it's going to continue to do this unless we see some big move from the markets. But as of right now, there isn't necessarily the most clear of signs. It looks to me like it's going to bounce back and forth for some time, maybe consolidate in this range. And if the market continues to allow it, NIO could actually see the next leg up again later during the week. But right now, I'm not necessarily seeing that. I'm still seeing some sideways action continuing. So historically, what you'll notice is this week, since August started, when the market opens, NIO tends to drop. It tends to drop a little bit, then get a nice push up and kind of close green. When the market opened today, right? Same thing. On Tuesday, it ended up dropping and pushed up, and then it dropped. Wednesday comes, NIO drops, pushes up, still closes green. So I think the trend might end up continuing for tomorrow. Now, tomorrow, a lot of companies like Tesla, they have their shareholder meetings. We have big earnings as well. So maybe the market could rally a bit. But I wouldn't be surprised if NIO kind of drops like this into open, tests 19.5, gets a big bounce off of that slowly, and it slowly actually pushes to maybe 20.4, maybe a little higher, 20.6, 20.8, like in this range right here. Gets a rejection off that, ends up trading sideways, and slowly we actually get a pretty green close. It still is possible for it to close a little green around 20.4. I think it's going to be pretty flat, and I just see a continuation of this just sideways action going back and forth for NIO. Now, even though it is a little boring to see sideways action like this, I understand that, but remember, during these moments, all right, if you're playing the chart right, you could actually catch some calls on these plays or even puts. If you want to buy them, you could sell covered calls or even buy puts, depending on what your strategies are. But my point is, this is an opportunity. You could swing trade it and make money. You could buy dips on the bottom and maybe try to flip shares. There are all sorts of things you could do. And this is just your opportunity. So I provided the data for you. I talked about what's going on. And the last thing I wanted to talk about is the fact that it's a short-term prediction. The long-term is still amazing. If you look at what NIO put on their Twitter page, NIO basically talked about how the European plant, the first overseas plant, will serve as NIO's manufacturing, service, and R&D center of power products. And you could see this man, I can't really say his name. I can't really say it. I apologize for that. Him, the man known as Peter, and the Hungarian Minister of Foreign Affairs and Trade, basically he welcomed NIO to Hungary. So it's very amazing to see them expanding across Europe. Once again, I apologize for not being able to say this name. It's amazing to see that they are welcomed. I respect what they are doing. I respect the people involved in welcoming them. Very, very amazing to see them expanding, and this is going to be fantastic for the business going forward. In the future, we could actually see NIO close more deals with companies like Shell to build more of these power swap stations, and we could see them expand to the United States very soon and many other countries like that. With that said and done, I want to thank each and every one of you for listening. Please have a great rest of the day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. NIO to the moon, because the long-term future is bright, and peace out.